Oh, good morning, guys. Good morning. We've been having some fun episodes. We're going to continue on talking what we're talking about. Do you guys remember back in our previous conversations? Well, you probably freaking don't. But, anyways, what we talked about was what motivates people. What motivates people, I argued, was pain and suffering. Now, it isn't just the pain and suffering of other people, even though that does affect them in some manner. Typically, the pain and suffering of your neighbor to your immediate left or to your immediate right will make you think in some kind of way, typically, holy crap, what if that was me? What would I hope my neighbor did for me? That's kind of how you go on thinking about it. That's how you go rationing it. Even if you don't even perceive that's the way you think about it, I argue that's human beings' default to thinking about morality. So people will say, wow, I wouldn't want that to happen to me. If that did happen to me, this is what I would want someone else to do for me on my behalf. Therefore, I believe it should be done on my neighbor's behalf as well. Okay, so pain and suffering is a motivator for you on the personal level as well. A lot of people default to victimhood. So if you experience any kind of pain and suffering, it's gonna oftentimes bring you to your knees. It's gonna bring you to a place of victimhood where you say, this shouldn't be happening to me. This isn't fair. This isn't right. I don't deserve this. And then typically what follows is, this is unethical or this is immoral. What's happening to me? That's typically people's basis of morality. It isn't fair. I don't like it. This hurts. It's unethical. It's immoral that I'm experiencing this. Take a moment to really download those things. Take a moment to really perceive here just what I'm saying. Now remember that this same sense of morality or ethics or pain and suffering that your neighbor experiences that motivates you, this same thing very well may not motivate you if you can't see the person, or if that person is not in close proximity to you, or especially if that person isn't under the influence or the authority of the same institutions in which you are. I'm saying here, if you're not under the same judicial system, if you're not under the same executive branch, you're not under the same governmental branch, you're not under all the same institutions that create the norms and the rules and enforce those norms and rules in your society, if you're not under those same things as somebody else, all of a sudden what you start seeing with people is this little tidbit about ethics and morality and how important that is to them. It starts to kind of degrade. It starts to kind of crumble. All of a suddenly what you see, in America you see all the time, someone complains about the starvation that occurs in America. They complain about the pain and suffering, that they should do something. But the cool thing about Americans and all these other European nations is that they kind of just tell you the truth straight up, and that's one of the things you gotta be proud of them about. Now they're not going to tell you like, well, we don't really care about those other people, but they are going to tell you that we really just care about our own. Our responsibility, our obligation, our morality and ethics, it's directed really towards our own people within our own countries under the authority of our own institutions. That's really what we care about. Now, what I'm going to argue is that what they don't care about, the part that they're not saying, is they really don't care about the people who are starving in other countries. They really don't care about people in Uganda who scourge for one meal a day. That really isn't something that they actually care about. They're willing to throw money at it, but it isn't something that keeps them awake at night, right? It isn't something that just truly bothers them to the core. It's not something that they care about enough to where they're actually going to do something about it. They're not actually going to ensure that in the next year, none of these children are scourging for a second meal per day. It's not that important to them, right? I mean, imagine what it would take to actually ensure something like that would happen, that these children are not scourging for a second meal a day. Well, you would kind of have to destroy their current institutions, enact a new constitution. You would have to destroy their culture and implement a new culture, and those same people who you are helping to have a better life would fight back, and they would struggle to integrate into this new culture. This would cost you lives because some of them would fight back, and this would cost you so much resources because you would have to build back better multiple times. Now, remember that saying? I watched this movie a little bit back, and it was about these women that were in sex trafficking. And the saying was that these women will go back to their abusers, to their pimps, 7 times before they are truly ready for freedom. These women will literally be bought in cash out of the sex trade, or out of being sex trafficked. They will be bought in cash, and they will be a free woman, and they will literally go back to that same pimp 7 times. 7 times. That's just one woman who's experienced 7, 10, I don't know, years of sex trafficking or less. Imagine when you're part of a 5th, a 10th, a 15th generation of people that are in the same culture, the same mindset, the same values, the same patterns. You think that these same people aren't gonna revert back to what they were at the least 7 times? So of course, all these Western countries don't really want to expend the resources to make the kind of changes in these countries that you might want to see. Of course they don't. It costs money. Oftentimes they fight back, so you lose troops. And nowadays, we got social media. So we can't do those things. Because remember, the natural default is victimhood. So people will see themselves, they'll think, wow, I couldn't even buy my kid the Christmas gift that I wanted to this year, but you are going to expend $1 billion on resources in Uganda. How is that fair? I can't afford to put my mom in a mental health institution, and we're going to terraform Uganda. How is that right? Yeah, that's kind of how people think these days. But I mean, are they like really wrong though? Are they wrong? That's the question. Are they wrong? Because that kind of thinking makes sense. If you can't even take care of your own people, if you can't even take care of all these children in these other places, well then, what's your plan? Right? What's your plan? Interesting. Very interesting, isn't it? Very, very interesting. So why is it then that in all these first world countries and such, why is it that people think of themselves as so moral and ethical in this objective sense that's universal, if they think that those same morals and ethics shouldn't have to be followed in other countries? How is that morality or ethic, how is it universal, how is it objective if they're not willing to enforce it in another land? If they're not willing to enforce it on another culture, then why do they think that it's objective? Because what we find is in other lands, amongst other cultures, they don't seem to have exactly the same ideas that we have about ethics and morality. That kind of ruins the whole point of the ethic or morality being objective. That makes it look more subjective. So why isn't it that more people adhere to my sense of subjective morality? If people can say, well, I guess that's true, I really don't think we should force these other cultures to have these same morals and these same ethics. Maybe in Afghanistan they should be allowed to beat their wives. Right? I mean, maybe in Uganda, if they have twins and because of superstition, maybe they should kill the newly born twins. Throw them in the pit of fire. Maybe they should. Maybe they should. Maybe without even close to being proper investigations, if you're found of a crime, you get killed same day, you get hung. They don't even have means of really investigating these things, so you probably have something like 25% of people who are innocent getting convicted of these crimes and dying for it in these, weird tribal places and stuff like that. I mean, so what? So what? Maybe you don't think that it's moral or ethical that children pay for the consequences of their grandfathers and their great-grandfathers, but so what? Right? I mean, we don't really have the resources to expand, so what? Right? Okay, so if you're willing to say that, which you are, especially if you're an isolationist, then you should be agreeing with me that morality is subjective. Right? And if morality is subjective, then you should be agreeing with me that you aren't actually in a position to tell Israel how they ought to act. Right? There's no ought. What you can say is, I think that this is what they should be doing. No. You guys are saying, you little Jew haters, you guys are saying, no, this is what they ought to do. Now let's keep it consistent. We don't want to say that Palestine has an ought either, right? We wouldn't want to say that their people has an ought. Right? We want to say this is what we think the Palestinians should do. Supplant Hamas, build a better future for the children, but there is no moral oughts. Right? Because this thing about morality is rather subjective. And if we break it down like that, then what it comes down to is may the strong win. May the strong win. And may those win who agree with me on what is moral and what isn't. Right? You're still following? Well, who more so agrees with us as Americans as to what is more moral and less moral? Would it be Palestine or Israel? Would it be Ukraine or China? Would it be Taiwan or China? Would it be Ukraine or Russia? Who would more so agree with us on what is moral and immoral? In the case of the Palestinians versus Israel, I would argue that we have a lot more in common with the nation of Israel than we do with the nation of Palestine. And if morality is subjective and we can't say it's objective, then we just need to support whoever has our similar sense of morality, because we can't tell anybody that is an ought any longer. We just have to support who we think will agree with us on what is moral. Right? I think that's pretty fair. I think that's pretty fair. So if that's the case, then why are you guys freaking screaming on behalf of Palestine? I don't understand it. Why are you screaming on behalf of Palestine? I just don't get it. I just don't get it. You're just gonna have to give me more information to really help me understand just what is going on here. That's it for today.